Welcome to the deep dive. So today, we're going to be looking back at the 40th episode of Danube Pebbles.
Oh, wow. 40 already.
I know, right? It's amazing how time flies. And, these guys, Balázs Kovács in Vienna and István Nagy-Szász in Budapest,
Yeah, no, Danube Pebbles, yeah.
they wrapped up 2024 with a special episode. And throughout the year, they've covered a fascinating range of topics, from sustainability and AI to the impact of geopolitics and, the rise of new travel trends.
So kind of like a year in review kind of a thing.
Exactly. A little retrospective of all the things they've explored.
Oh.
You shared this episode with us, and I'm excited to unpack it and see what insights we can uncover together.
Yeah, Danube Pebbles always has such interesting guests, and, they cover those topics that are really shaping the future of travel, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And with their focus on the Danube region,
Right.
it's like a microcosm of what's happening in the tourism industry globally.
Yeah, for sure. So where do we start?
Well, István kicks things off with some exciting personal news.
Oh.
His hotel group, CPI Hotels,
Mm-hmm.
has expanded into Austria
Wow.
with a brand new hotel in Vienna.
That's a big move. Vienna is like the heart of the Danube region.
Yeah,
So.
and it's a 2011-room hotel. So
Whoa. That's not messing around. They're serious about this expansion.
it's a statement for sure. And you know what's even more interesting?
What's that?
They've appointed Hubert.
Hubert.
Yeah, you remember him? He was a guest on Danube Pebbles a while back.
Oh, yeah. I remember that episode. He was talking about the future of hotel design or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Well, he's the general manager of this new CPI hotel in Vienna.
That's so cool. It's like the podcast came full circle.
I know, right? It's a testament to the power of, networking and building those relationships.
For sure. Those connections you make can lead to unexpected opportunities.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit now
Mhm.
and travel back in time to September 2024.
All right, time travel.
Balázs takes us to the Keep Shining Legacy Conference in Veszprém. Yeah, reflecting on the city's year as the European capital of culture.
Ah, yes. I remember hearing about that Veszprém Balaton 2023, right?
That's the one, a pretty prestigious title, recognizing their cultural heritage and contributions to the arts.
It's a big deal for a city. A chance to really shine on the international stage.
And it sounds like they did a phenomenal job from what Balázs describes.
Yeah.
They really emphasize community building and creative initiatives.
I like that approach. It's about more than just flashy events, It's about making a lasting impact.
Exactly. They transformed industrial spaces into cultural hubs, launched this amazing street art program.
Cool. Street art can really transform a city, make it more vibrant.
And they even created a mobile app to keep the momentum going.
Oh, wow. So people can stay connected to the cultural scene even after the year's over.
Yeah, the Web23 app, it gives access to regional programs and events, keeps the spirit of Veszprém Balaton 2023 alive.
That's smart. Thinking long-term about the legacy of the event.
What struck me, though, is that they achieved all of this without, relying heavily on those large-scale infrastructure projects.
Yeah, that's interesting. It challenges that assumption that you need massive investments to make a cultural impact.
Right. It's like they found a different path, focusing on community engagement, creative solutions.
It's more sustainable, too, in a way,
Right.
instead of just pouring money into concrete.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, could other cities replicate this model, focus on those more grassroots efforts?
It's a good question. It's definitely worth exploring. But, not every city has that same kind of community spirit or, the political will to make those kinds of changes.
That's true. It's a complex equation, for sure.
Yeah.
But speaking of contrasting approaches, they touch upon the challenges faced by Bad Isch Salzkammergut.
That's this year's European Capital of Culture, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like they've had some difficulties maintaining visibility, navigating internal debates.
Ah, so maybe not as smooth sailing as Veszprém.
It seems like strong partnerships and a clear vision are crucial for success.
Yeah, you need everyone on board rowing in the same direction. Otherwise, it can easily get derailed.
And community buy-in is essential. You can't just impose these things from the top down.
Absolutely. It has to be a collaborative effort.
Okay, so let's move on now to a topic that's near and dear to our hearts, sustainable tourism.
Always a hot topic, especially these days.
The hosts discuss the Tormies conference in Vienna.
Tormies?
Yeah, like this big international conference focused on tourism management information systems.
Okay, so like data and technology in tourism.
Exactly. And a key theme this year was developing new indicators and methods for measuring sustainability.
Oh, that's crucial. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right?
And get this, the UN has just adopted a brand new framework for measuring sustainable tourism.
Wow, that's huge. Finally, some global standards.
I know. It's a major step towards, having a standardized way of collecting and analyzing data on sustainable tourism.
Yeah, so we can finally move beyond those vague claims and, greenwash.
And start comparing apples to apples when it comes to sustainability practices.
Transparency and accountability, that's what we need.
Speaking of good examples, they highlight Finland's Sustainable Travel Finland project.
Oh, yeah. Finland. They're always ahead of the curve when it comes to sustainability.
And they're really walking the talk with this project. They've developed this digital dashboard.
A dashboard?
Yeah, it tracks all sorts of sustainability metrics, carbon footprint, CO2 intensity, even the efficiency of bookings.
That's impressive. And is this information public?
It is. Anyone can access it. They're totally transparent about their progress.
That's fantastic. It sets a high bar for other destinations.
And it encourages that culture of accountability. You can't hide behind vague promises anymore.
Okay, so Finland's setting a great example. What about closer to home? What's happening in Vienna?
Well, they talk about the Wien Tourismus Conference. It's Vienna's annual tourism industry gathering.
Ah, so like the big event for Vienna's tourism scene.
Exactly. And Norbert Kettner, the CEO of Wien Tourismus, he painted a very positive picture.
Oh, that's good to hear. Vienna is such a popular destination. I'm always curious to hear how they're managing things.
They're exceeding sustainability targets ahead of schedule.
Wow, that's impressive.
Seeing impressive growth in overnight stays and revenue.
So they're thriving, basically.
They are. And they've even managed to turn a potentially negative event.
A negative event? What happened?
Remember the Taylor Swift concerts that were canceled?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. There were some security concerns, right?
Yeah, well, instead of letting that cancellation overshadow everything, they turned it into a PR win.
How'd they do that?
They generated media coverage by focusing on their flexibility, their ability to adapt to unexpected events.
That's smart, turning a lemon into lemonade.
Exactly. And they're not resting on their laurels either. Vienna has declared 2025 the year of Johann Strauss.
Johann Strauss, waltz guy.
The king of waltz. And they're partnering with the European Space Agency.
The European Space Agency? What?
To make the Blue Danube waltz the anthem of space.
Whoa, that's like next level marketing.
It's brilliant, right? Connecting a beloved cultural icon with cutting-edge science.
Making heritage relevant to a modern audience. And it's sure to generate buzz.
Oh, yeah. Vienna knows how to make a statement. And, of course, let's not forget about the infrastructure projects. They're building a new metro line, a massive new arena.
So they're investing in the future.
Big time. Vienna's clearly committed to remaining a top-tier tourism hub.
Smart move, considering how competitive the global tourism landscape is.
Okay, so for now, let's leave Vienna and journey back to Budapest for the European Tourism Forum.
Back to Budapest. This was that high-level event, right? During Hungary's EU presidency.
Yeah, they brought together some of the most influential figures in European tourism. And István was there, of course.
Yeah, what were his takeaways? What was the mood like?
He noted a growing recognition within the EU of tourism's importance, both economically and socially.
That's good. It's about time tourism gets the recognition it deserves.
Right. And this is reflected in the appointment of a dedicated EU commissioner for tourism.
Oh, wow. A dedicated commissioner. That's a first, right?
It is. It signals a real shift in priorities.
Acknowledging that tourism needs a cohesive EU-wide strategy.
Exactly. But there are still challenges,
What kind of challenges?
He highlighted the lack of harmonized data collection and regulations across EU member states.
Ah, that makes sense. You can't really analyze trends or plan effectively if everyone's doing their own thing.
And it makes it tough to develop truly effective policies.
Yeah, a more unified approach is needed.
Collaboration is key. But what really surprised me
What's that?
was that tourism was completely absent from the EU's competitiveness strategy.
Seriously, that's a major oversight.
I know, right?
Yeah.
If the EU wants to remain a global leader in tourism,
They need to address that gap.
develop a more comprehensive approach to competitiveness.
For sure. But it's not just about the EU, right? Every destination is facing these challenges.
Absolutely. And Danube Pebbles touches on many of those global trends.
Like what?
Well, they briefly mentioned the impact of AI on tourism.
Ah, yes. AI is changing everything these days.
And it's only going to become more influential in the years to come.
So we'll have to stay tuned to Danube Pebbles to hear more about that.
Exactly. They're going to be exploring that topic in future episodes.
Now let's stick with Budapest for a bit longer, because just a couple of weeks after the European Tourism Forum, the city hosted the Danube Shipping Conference.
Ah, yes. the big event for the river cruise industry.
So all about those Danube river cruises.
And Balázs was there. He noted that the conference had record attendance.
Wow. So river cruising is booming.
It seems so. People from all over the world came to Budapest for this conference.
The Danube is becoming a hot spot.
And it seems Central Europe, particularly the Danube region, is seen as a safe and attractive destination, in the current global context.
Yeah, that makes sense. People are looking for stability and beauty, and the Danube offers both.
However, the lower stretch of the Danube,
Closer to Ukraine.
yeah, that area experienced less demand this year.
Because of the conflict.
It highlights how geopolitical events can directly impact tourism flows.
It's a reminder that tourism is a volatile industry, constantly adapting to external forces.
Now let's talk about some of the key themes that emerged at the conference.
Okay. What were people talking about?
Well, as we've seen at other events, digitalization and sustainability were hot topics.
Those themes are everywhere these days.
The industry is clearly focused on innovation and responsible practices.
It's about finding that balance between growth and sustainability.
Right. One speaker, Professor Harold Size, he raised an important point about the rise of misinformation and greenwashing.
Ah, yes. It's easy to make claims, but harder to actually back them up.
He argued that the tourism industry has a crucial role to play in educating travelers and promoting transparency.
We need to cut through the noise and provide clear, credible information.
And that brings us to another thought-provoking speaker, Daniel Freer.
What did he talk about?
He compared over-tourism to Goethe's The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
The Sorcerer's Apprentice. That's an interesting analogy.
He used the Disney adaptation to illustrate, the dangers of unchecked growth.
Ah, like those broomsticks multiplying out of control.
Exactly. And the need for collective responsibility to manage tourism sustainably.
We need to be careful not to let tourism overwhelm the destinations.
Right. It's about finding that balance between economic benefits and preserving the character of a place.
And that leads us to the importance of promoting lesser-known destinations,
Diversifying itinerary.
engaging local communities.
The conference highlighted the chameleon travel model as a best practice.
Chameleon travel, I haven't heard of them.
They focus on small group tours and empowering local communities.
That's a great approach. It's about spreading the benefits of tourism more widely.
And creating more authentic and sustainable experiences.
So it's not just about avoiding the crowds, it's about choosing tourism that benefits everyone.
Speaking of responsible practices, let's shift gears one last time and talk about sustainability certifications.
Okay, certifications, always a good sign.
István shares some exciting news. His Marriott Courtyard Hotel in Budapest just received the prestigious Green Key certification.
Green Key. That's a tough one to get.
It is. It's a globally recognized eco-label for tourism establishments that meet strict environmental criteria.
So they've been audited and everything?
Oh, yeah. It's a rigorous, independent process. Requires a genuine commitment to sustainability.
Impressive. It's not just about ticking boxes, it's about making real changes.
And only 12 hotels in all of Hungary have earned this certification.
So they're leading the way.
They are. It's a big win for CPI hotels and for sustainable tourism in the Danube region.
It shows that they're serious about this.
Yeah.
And, it inspires others to follow suit.
Before we move on, did you catch that little tidbit about CPI hotels having trouble finding time to record the podcast amidst their expansion into Austria?
Oh, yeah, they mentioned something about that. It's a good problem to have, I guess.
It shows their commitment to the Danube region is paying off.
And it makes their insights even more valuable, They're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have to ask, did anything particularly surprise you about the topics covered in this episode of Danube Pebbles?
Well, what struck me was the juxtaposition, You have these positive developments like Vienna's success and the growing recognition of tourism's importance within the EU.
Right.
But then you also have these ongoing challenges like data harmonization, the threat of over-tourism, and the need to combat misinformation.
It's a mixed bag for sure.
But ultimately, I think it paints a hopeful picture, The Danube region is facing these challenges head-on, and they're finding creative solutions.
They're not shying away from the tough conversations.
Exactly. And that gives me hope that we can create a more sustainable and responsible future for tourism.
Not just in the Danube region, but globally.
Because at the end of the day, the challenges and opportunities they're facing are relevant to destinations and businesses worldwide.
It's all interconnected. It really is a fascinating mix, isn't it? Progress and challenges all kind of intertwined in this beautiful and historically rich region.
Yeah, it's like a microcosm of the world in a way.
Before we dive into the final part of our exploration of Danube pebbles, I'm curious, what's resonated most with you so far from this episode?
That's a good question. What stood out to you?
Well, there's so many threads to pull on here.
Right. From those innovative approaches to sustainability to the delicate balance between tourism growth and preserving local communities.
Exactly. And the way Vienna is leveraging their cultural heritage, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they're definitely thinking outside the box.
And what about that stark contrast between Vesprem's success and the challenges faced by Bad Ischl's Kammergut as European capitals of culture?
Yeah, that was a good point. It highlights how important leadership and collaboration are.
Take a moment to reflect on what's caught your attention so far. We'll be right here when you're ready to continue our deep dive.
Okay, so we've covered the main discussions, but Danube Pebbles always has those little extras,
Yeah, those nuggets of information that they sprinkle in.
In this episode, Balázs highlights a sustainability award in Hungary and encourages listeners to apply.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It's like, hey, if you're doing great things for sustainability, let's hear about it.
It's great that they're actively promoting and supporting those who are making a difference.
Yeah, they're walking the talk.
Yeah.
And speaking of inspiring actions, they tease a major announcement coming in the first episode of 2025.
Ooh, a cliffhanger.
I know. I can't wait to see what they have in store for us.
Me neither. It keeps things interesting.
But what really caught my attention was their final extra.
Okay, what was that?
A link to NASA's Spotify channel
NASA on Spotify.
where you can listen to The Golden Record.
Ah, the Golden Record. It's a time capsule of sounds and images from Earth.
Launched into space on the Voyager spacecraft back in 1977.
Yeah, it's meant to represent humanity to any extraterrestrial civilizations that might encounter it.
It's a beautiful and profound gesture, and it ties in so perfectly with the themes of Danube Pebbles.
How so?
It reminds us that amidst all the complexities and challenges of tourism, there's this bigger picture. We're all interconnected, sharing this incredible planet.
Right. Our actions have far-reaching consequences.
It encourages us to think about the impact of our choices, not just on our immediate surroundings, but on the world as a whole.
That sense of responsibility and wonder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then just when you think they're going to leave us on this philosophical high note,
Yeah.
they bring us back down to earth
The thud.
with this reminder about the dangers of over-tourism.
Even in the most unexpected places.
They mention Rovaniemi,
Rovaniemi.
the official home of Santa Claus in Finland.
Oh, wow. Even Santa's not immune to over-tourism.
Apparently not. They've experienced this huge surge in visitors in recent years.
So even the most magical destinations are facing these challenges.
It's a reminder that we need to find that balance, between economic benefits and preserving the character and well-being of a place.
Sustainable tourism isn't just about protecting the environment. It's about protecting communities, too.
And it reinforces the importance of responsible travel.
Yeah.
Asking ourselves, how can we experience the world in a way that's enriching for us and sustainable for the places we visit?
It's a question we should all be asking ourselves.
Whether we're traveling to Lapland or exploring our own backyards.
Being mindful travelers, respecting local communities, making conscious choices that minimize our impact.
And with that thought-provoking note, the 40th episode of Danube Pebbles comes to a close.
They always leave you with something to think about.
They do. They urge listeners to connect with them on social media, subscribe to the podcast, and spread the word about their mission.
To build a more sustainable and engaging tourism industry in the Danube region.
Exactly. And I think what makes this episode, and Danube Pebbles in general, so compelling is that it goes beyond simply providing information.
It's about inspiring action.
Exactly. It inspires us to think differently about tourism, to consider its broader impact.
And to participate in shaping its future.
It's a call to action, not just for industry professionals.
Not for all of us.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's take a moment to consider how these insights from Danube Pebbles might apply to your own life,
Your own travel.
to your own business practices.
What can we learn from the successes and challenges of the Danube region?
How can we apply these lessons to create a more positive and sustainable future for tourism?
Both locally and globally.
It's amazing how one little podcast episode can spark so many, bigger questions about the future of travel.
It really is. And what's interesting is that even though Danube Pebbles focuses on a specific region,
Right.
the themes they explore have global relevance.
Absolutely. The need for accurate sustainability metrics, the responsible use of AI, that balance between tourism growth and preserving local communities. These are things that destinations all over the world are grappling with.
For sure. So what does this all mean for you, the listener, you know? You might not be planning a trip down the Danube anytime soon.
Right. What can we take away from this deep dive that applies to our own travel experiences and choices?
Well, if you're a business owner, think about how you can integrate sustainability into your core operations.
Like really embed it,
Yeah,
not just as a marketing tactic,
exactly. It's about those everyday choices that minimize your impact.
like CPI hotels earning that Green Key certification.
Right. It's a real commitment.
And if you're involved in destination management, think about how you can learn from Visprem's success.
Yeah, how can you leverage your region's unique assets,
Empower local community.
Create those authentic and sustainable tourism experiences.
That idea of diversifying itineraries and promoting lesser-known spots really spoke to me.
Yeah, we tend to get stuck in those same old tourist traps.
But there's a whole world out there waiting to be discovered.
And for you, the travelers, remember that your choices matter.
Every decision you make has an impact.
Support businesses that are doing things the right way.
Choose experiences that benefit local communities.
Be a mindful traveler.
Leave a positive footprint.
It's about shifting our mindset from consuming destinations to really engaging with them,
Respecting the people and the places we visit.
And that brings us to a key takeaway from Danube Pebbles, I think.
What's that?
The future of tourism isn't set in stone. It's being shaped right now by the choices we make every day.
It's an ongoing conversation.
And we all have a voice.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Danube Pebbles,
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey.
let's remember those inspiring words from Balázs and István.
The journey towards a more sustainable and engaging tourism industry continues.
And it's a journey we can all be a part of.
Huh.
So thank you for joining us on this exploration.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
And we hope you'll tune in next time for another deep dive into a topic you choose.
Until then, keep exploring, keep learning.
And keep those Danube Pebbles rolling.